Welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host Trey. I gotta say it, just the fact that you've clicked onto this video and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. Tomorrow, inflation data comes out and the market is anticipating the information as it always does. When the information comes out, if it's good, the market could still go down. If it's bad, the market could still go up. You just don't know how the market is going to interpret the information that the Federal Reserve releases tomorrow. But I want to talk about something else besides the data that's coming out tomorrow, which is what happened to the collapse? What happened to the housing collapse that the financial gurus have been calling for? What happened to the automobile collapse that the financial gurus have been calling for? What happened to the collapse? I don't see it. Have you seen the collapse? No. I think what we've really been seeing, obviously, is the prices of everything continuing to go up. There's this picture that's trying to be painted by some that things are stabilizing, but in regular individuals' lives, you can just talk to your friends and your family and they'll tell you the struggles of just still being able to afford the necessities of life. Rent, mortgage, car note, gas, food, clothing, on and on. I actually went recently to buy some clothing items. And I was just amazed at how overpriced basic clothing is nowadays. Just for a t-shirt, we're talking $30, $40. Now, you can still get a t-shirt for about $10 at Walmart or Target, but the quality, not quite there. But anyhow, I say all this to say, I've spent the better part of this year listening to so-called financial gurus, economists, talking about a collapse that has not happened. In fact, all we've seen in the stock market this year is puffed up asset values. In fact, Nvidia reached a $4 trillion market valuation. It's a $4 trillion company at this point. That's unheard of and is driven by the fact that AI and companies that purchase these chips from Nvidia want to stay ahead of the curve. They want to figure out a way to replace you with AI. And you can call it tinfoil hat if you're listening to this all you want, but the goal is to replace you. And for the wealthy to continue to get wealthier. All I've seen this year is the wealthy get wealthier. Even with the big beautiful bill, some people call it the big ugly bill, it became apparent that the wealthy were going to benefit immensely from the bill in regards to taxes. Which means who's left to fit the bill to fund the federal government and the programs that so many people rely on? As always, the middle class and working class. And so we're not seeing this so-called collapse of any assets that people have been calling for. These gurus told you, oh, the financial collapse is coming, buy gold. Oh, the financial collapse is coming, purchase my course so you can learn how to invest into real estate and you can get wealthy and become a millionaire like me. All to no avail, all to find out that that course that you purchased was a waste of your money and your time. And who's to blame? Well, I'm going to blame the so-called gurus here. But at some point, it's important to realize that Here in America, the gap between the haves and the have-nots has expanded likely beyond return. And so the best case scenario now is the bleeding stops. That the middle class and working class find a way to hold the line because it's a current battle between the classes. See the battleship here from Monopoly? There's a current battle between the classes. And the wealthy are trying to ensure that there is nothing left for you and I but scraps. And look, I want to say this. There is nothing wrong with wealth. There's nothing wrong with having land and having assets that provide you value over time. But the greed that we experience in this country is unheard of in history. We're seeing people barely afford, again, the basic necessities. And we now know that the top 50% of individuals in this country control 97% of the wealth. We now know that going to college and getting a degree doesn't ensure that you're going to achieve high levels of financial success. We now know that going to work every day, clocking in, clocking out, and getting a paycheck does not ensure financial success. Anything can happen in life. For you, for me. But for the wealthy, that doesn't seem to be the case. And I always hear these stories about, oh, most of the millionaires are self-made. But people say that and they truly don't understand how wealth works, and they don't know the stories of these people who said that they made it this or that way. They don't know who the mother and father is of that person and any types of donations they might have provided, who an uncle might be, who a friend of a friend might be, the connections. People don't know. But when you look at the numbers, you find out that the people in this country who are doing well don't do it through labor. They survive through wealth transfers, life insurance policies, estate transfers. And in the big beautiful bill, I heard nothing being mentioned of taxing that, which is what is necessary in order for us to rectify some of the imbalance we have in the system. We need some type of relief for the middle class and the working class. And the middle class and the working class need to stick together and fight for what is necessary at this point. This idea that there's going to be some type of collapse and prices are going to fall and you're going to be able to purchase cheap real estate and get a vehicle at a huge discount, even though there are surpluses. I actually went by a Ford dealership recently and I saw vehicles taking over the lot. And in years past, I hadn't seen that many vehicles on the lot. So there's certainly surplus in the economy. However, who can afford a new truck right now at $50,000, at $60,000 for some of these trucks? Who can afford it? Who can afford purchasing a home right now? The average home price of $400,000 with the mortgage rate where it is now. Who can afford it? You need to be making at least $120,000 plus. So I actually heard today that the inventory for the housing market is shrinking. So there's always this narrative that, at least from some, that there's a doomsday scenario of things crashing, and that never happens. The biggest example I've had in my lifetime of what it looks like when a so-called crash happens in America was certainly the pandemic. We saw the stock market take a dip slightly for a moment, and it did a U-shaped recovery and never looked back. We saw housing prices skyrocket. We saw automobiles that were old, the prices of those skyrocket. And so why do we have it in our minds that there's going to be this crash that occurs and brings the prices of everything down? That's not going to happen. And so my prediction for tomorrow with the CPI information coming out tomorrow from the Federal Reserve is that we're likely going to see that inflation is being reported as being under control. However, it's important to understand, let me make sure I get this right. Because tomorrow CPI, which measures a broad basket of goods and services across the US economy, is expected to show 0.3% monthly increase for both headline and core rates, with the latter excluding volatile food and energy costs. On an annual basis, the index is expected to show a 2.7% headline reading and 3% on core. So I think that inflation data tomorrow is going to come out and say that inflation is under control. I think they're going to spin it as positive. But what I've become aware of as it pertains to the CPI data is that they're doing guesstimates. They do not have enough field agents working for the Federal Reserve, going to supermarkets and places where the services and goods are provided to see what the actual prices are. The numbers are skewed. They are not providing accurate information. And this is why I say you have to look at your personal life, and that tells the story. Not what CNBC is saying, not what Yahoo Finance is saying. In your personal life, when you go to the grocery store, what are you experiencing when you buy your typical goods you've been purchasing for years past? So that's my thought. I think that the information will come out as positive. They'll spin it that way. But the bigger story is, how is the data being recorded? Are they still guessing, or are they actually providing as much accurate data as possible for us to rely upon as U.S. citizens and make policy shifts and changes? But anyhow, the crash, I don't see it. Maybe you do. I'm tired of hearing about it. All I know is that prices keep going up. I do not foresee them going down for the things that we rely upon. But please share your thoughts in the comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.